Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Friday Sessions. I'm Dr. Drew Ramsey. I'm your co-host, and along with Gregory Scott Brown, we partner with Men's Health Magazine to try and talk about male mental health every Friday afternoon. And to do that, we invite on all kinds of wonderful, prominent, creative, interesting men to talk about, and women, to talk about male mental health and really what that means today. And today we have a very special guest. We've got Miguel, the singer, songwriter, incredible visual artist. If you haven't seen some of his videos, you should head to his website, officialmiguel.com, right after this, because and I'm sure many of you are fans and know his songs. So Miguel's going to join us right now, and we'll talk about male mental health and creativity and artistry. Miguel.
How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right. I'm all right. That was a very kind introduction, man.
You're one of the real pleasures for me doing this as a, psychiatrist and guys interested in men and male mental health and just mental health, is to get to meet individuals like you. Your creativity is incredible, man. I mean, I'm sure you know this, but I just have enjoyed watching your videos and listening to your songs. And unlike everyone else in the world, I wasn't a fan of yours prior to a week ago, but I'm a huge fan now. So thank you so much for all you do, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. Thank you. It's actually a blessing to be able to do what we love every day, so it's really cool. Thank you.
That's I had your song queued up for the intro here. I was gonna do like a good intro here, and I was gonna say, but I didn't. I got too nervous. Sorry. So where are we finding you right now? It looks like are you in your home gym? What is that?
Yeah, I mean, I literally kind of had a late night in the studio, so I'm getting a later start. So it just so happened that I'm here because this is how I like to get my day started, but. I guess it couldn't be more fitting, men's health, in the gym.
I guess. Well, I'd like to hop right in, and I'd like to hear, how you think about mental health and kind of just broadly what that means to you and what that means to you right now in 2021.
Man, mental health. The crazy thing is that without the mind, the body's, nothing. There's plenty of people who unfortunately may have had an accident or whatnot, and if the brain's not working or functioning, it's just you're not going to exist in this plane where whatever this thing is. So I guess it's just pretty interesting that it's taken us so long to really put a focus on it. But I feel like we're in a good place where we can have these conversations, and hopefully help each other just maintain and just better interface, because everybody's got their struggles. So
everybody does have their struggles. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I love that you're tying mental health right away to brain health, because I think that's one of those shifts that helps us maybe talk about this more. Right. You seem to me to be a just wonderful communicator. I'm wondering how you think we interface better about mental health in ways that maybe has happened for you in your life.
Man, interfacing is probably, especially with mental health, I think is just about conversation. We fear what we don't understand. And when we don't understand even ourselves, sometimes it's easier to just tuck things away. But when you start to feel like maybe you're hitting plateaus, or, certain things that just become, whatever you're experiencing isn't really what you're looking for, or maybe you're over some of the things that you're sort of experiencing, and you're looking for ways to change that. I think naturally you start to look at, how what you can do to, and that's one of the first things you do is start thinking about how you think, right?
I hope so. I mean, that's what I always encourage people to do, is to engage with that inner world and inner process. I got really curious listening to your music a little about a lot of different things, but one is about your inner process as an artist, and maybe it's related, which is what it's like to be a powerful man but have such a sweet voice.
Man, it's definitely got its perks, and I think the best part is probably being able to say things that will otherwise be really challenging, on a conversational, in a conversational way, to be able to say those things in ways that maybe other people could relate to, and it maybe made it easier for them to have a conversation. That's probably been the most fulfilling part of it, to be honest with you. Um, and yeah.
I mean, it seems to me that's also mobilizing. I mean, as an artist, I feel like what artists give to us emotionally is often mobilizing or helping emotions come out. Like, I saw this dance performance yesterday. These three dancers have been working. I'm here in Wyoming, and they've been working for months. And I happened to stumble into their last practice, and they made a dance about the pandemic.
Mm.
And the way their bodies moved and the way that kind of the virus, it pulled so much out of me. I mean, I choked up. I started to cry a little, and
Mm.
I wonder when you're writing, when you're in your state, how I think my question again is, how do you learn to kind of process and deal with those emotions and then create something beautiful out of them?
That's a great question. Yeah, processing emotions is probably one of the, it's expected, as a part of the creative process. I think an artist, that's sort of what the real work of an artist is, to sort of, one, develop and hone a skill in order to better emote in a way that, communicates on a deeper level with other human beings, and that's really emotional. That's sort of the big difference to me, I think, between, like, you know, uh, or what makes us different from uh, other animals, is maybe our ability to create things that communicate emotion, and not just function. So I think that the process is always about, um, one, trying to get myself into a place of real comfortable comfort, and in a place where I can almost like quiet everything and really hear and feel whatever I'm processing, so that I can just give it, and then, hopefully it's got those things that, really really connects with other people, and I think that's when that happens. I think that's when I feel the most like a real artist.
Are there things that you do in like your daily life? Like I read somewhere you meditate, for example, but I wonder if there's kind of a regimen you have, because that state you're talking about, I mean, I think a lot of us who aren't as artistic or as creative as you are, maybe we feel it every now and then, but it feels like a place that you really, you enter much more easily. And I feel like there must be some ways that you kind of tune or hone the instrument of Miguel to do that that might help everybody.
The interesting thing is that it's really just the process of practice. Um, I don't think there's any skill. Again, being creative is more of a skill. It's a way of sort of
Tell
thinking.
me about that, because we always think it's like a attribute, like I'm a creative person, or like, oh, I'm
Right.
not such a great. What do you mean it's a skill?
Right. Well, we forget that, like, when we're children, when we do things, we get either confirmation and affirmation, or you get sort of you can be discouraged, and people can either say, yes, you are creative, you can, or they go, nah, like, maybe you should do this, or
You
you
don't
should.
really know how to draw.
Right, right. Like, I don't really know about. And so, by process of practice or not practicing from an early age, you start to really hone certain skills, ways of thinking, ways of being, ways of acting and doing and executing. And as you get older, it seems like it's just it's something you either have or you don't. But I really do believe that we all are capable of doing anything if we really want to, and we have the actual drive to continue to do it to the point of being good at it. It's just a matter of practice. So yeah, I think that the process for me really begins at having family who encouraged me early, and then having a real genuine passion for uh, communicating, and that's really really what it is, really. So anyone out there who wants to be creative, I think it's just about connecting ideas with emotions, and then just continuing to do that regardless of what the feedback is, and then as you do it, I think the feedback becomes more better and better. um, and also seeking people who will encourage you and give you constructive criticism, but not be discouraging, because we all got something to learn.
Are there thank you for that. And I'm wondering, because I'm getting excited, I can get more creative, which I'm getting older. So I've still got some time. Are there specific practices that sometimes when you're not feeling good or you're not in a great state that you use to get or kind of get sort of to work that creativity muscle?
Uh, Normally, it's I step outside of my like chosen medium, and I do my best to focus on mediums that I enjoy just as a fan, that I don't have any sort of critical thoughts or, I don't really look at it with critique. I look at it from a place of just enjoyment, and I normally just go there because, when you do something as a profession, you become all of the things around what makes that viable or successful, whatever, can start to play on you. So to sort of separate myself from, any of the critique, anything that could, where my critical eye plays a large part, or I have a real strong opinion, or I think we can get that way. I just try and lean into mediums it's not really my profession, where I can just enjoy. And
Is
then
that
start.
I don't know, I learned to play the piano maybe like a few years ago, not nicely, just like banging a few chords. And I feel that we're like, I don't ever expect myself to like play piano, but I enjoy it and it just feels good to me. Is that
Right.
what you mean? Like I'm not critiquing myself too much, I'm not thinking it's
Yeah.
good. Do you like pick up a ukulele or start sketching or what kind of things do you do?
Man, for me, it's probably like, this is gonna sound crazy, but like skateboarding. It's like literally like go and fall
Yeah.
because I cannot skateboard. I'm shit. But the thing that I love about it is the creativity that of skateboarders and what they can do with it and style, and it's physicality. There's a lot of technical and a lot of practice involved. And because of all of that, it's sort of like an activity that is a little less um, subjective because there's an execution part that is gratifying. So even if I can land an ollie or whatever, or get close to a kickflip, I'm happy, and that takes me completely outside of create melody and and lyric and what is this? How does this measure up to? Because I think naturally, as our brains are built to compute, we just sometimes lean into that, and I have to. That's what meditation is good for me. It's like, well, let's just bring it back to center. Like, what are we really here for? What is this for? Is to express, emote, communicate emotion. But to recalibrate, I like doing things like skateboarding or going to ride my motorcycle, honestly.
No, well, I think those things also take, we get into that chattery thinking mind, right? Where we're all in our head and we're worrying about what people think or we're worrying about ourselves or something that happened. We're not really
Right.
present. And it's one of those things sometimes you just, no matter how intentional you are, you can't get your mind there. Some people call it distraction, but I think it's much more deep than that because I
Mm,
feel like with those physical movements where you are being creative,
mm,
you're responding as you're on the skateboard. You've got a goal with a new trick, right? You've
right.
got kind of fear and mastery all like tangled up. And I think
Right.
that's always good for the juice in the brain, I think. I mean, when I
Yeah.
see that. Um, Miguel, I feel in the series we haven't done a great job asking men about relationships
Mm,
and how they manage and function in relationships and intimate relationships. And you have a partner and a wife, I believe, and I don't mean to switch gears so quickly, but it just struck me. I was wondering what kind of relationship advice you have for people, because I think so many, we all struggle in that. I mean, everyone, no matter how, I don't know, analyzed or mature you are, like relationships are tough. That's, I think, why we like them. They challenge us. But I was wondering, so many men struggle in relationships, right? We have this idea that like men don't talk about feelings. And
mm,
you're a man who's actually like working to like get the feeling as pure out there into the world as possible. And so you
mm.
must be really interesting to be in a relationship with us. I think it might have some tips for us.
Man, it's kind. Look, I'm no doctor, so I'll say that it's not. But I'll say for us, I think the focus being on being as fulfilled personally will leads to so much fulfillment as a unit. As a together when you come together with a partner. I think you got to start with good. You know, it's like a chef starting with bad ingredients. You know, he's going to have a real hard time coming up with something satisfying. And I think we all have ingredients. Some of them are great and they're awesome for us. And then some other ingredients, and when I say that, I mean, you know, the way that we think, how we operate. You know, some of those things you have to sort of go, okay, what's the better alternative? What can I replace? How can I do this better? How can I upgrade the way that I operate or think? And so that my energy is like clear, you know. And I think the more of it I do that, it's just been helpful in so many ways in bringing me and my partner together. But again, I think we started with friendship. We started with really similar sort of goals, like life goals and upbringing. So that we kind of had a little bit of a head start in that way. And so I would say, one, you got to really, really be clear about what's going to work for you, you know? And if you're not clear about what's going to work for you, I think it's really starting again with the end in mind. What kind of relationship do you want? And can you be really honest with yourself with that and hold yourself to that? Because if you have that first, then what you build around that will more likely fit into sort of what's going to be fulfilling. But if you're going into things not clear, if you want a certain kind of relationship where you guys are, there's a number of ways I could chop this up, but I think starting with the end in mind is really important, and then 2, working on yourself is really important, and then 3, in terms of communicating, what helps us the most is activities where, like, hiking. This is like I'm trying to think of like actionable things.
Mm-hmm.
Hiking again is like, because it's physical. It's a little less subjective. Again, you're moving, and your mind is also clear. So you're kind of in a place you're with the earth. You just got great. If you can get sort of the right surroundings, it kind of opens up really good conversation. And then having conversation, open, honest conversation, man, that brings people together.
I agree with that entirely. I find a lot of men are scared to be open and honest. There's a notion, I hear this a lot in practice. Men will tell me, like, why would I tell her or him exactly what I'm thinking? They're just going to use that as a stick to hit me. And it feels a little sad to me, because it means that a lot of people, I think, are in relationships where they don't feel they can be open with, let's just say, parts of themselves.
Right.
And I was wondering, how did you get to a spot of being really wanting to be in a more open and honest place?
Ooh, that took some time. I'll be honest. I was very much operating in a different way for a long time. I mean, to be honest, like I met my partner when I was 19. She was 18. Lots of growing needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of changes were happening on a professional level, but then on a personal level too. So navigating what my idea of what being in the forefront, being in the spotlight, being successful meant as a man, what that meant I could do, what I should do because of what I heard is, you know what I mean? It's just, you start to live out some of these things, and it's not always healthy. It's not always healthy. And that starts to build the kind of sort of distrust that leads to relationships that, people use things against you. When you share something, they're going to use it against you. So again, it's like, at some point, you got to think of the relationship you built, and you have to be real about what you built. You built a house on unsolid foundation. Eventually, you're going to have to tear the house down, and you're going to have to re-pour the foundation and then build from there with proper plans, you know what I mean? And have a real good sense of what kind of home you want to build. If you go in like, I kind of like, sometimes I like a tent out here, and we got this sand, it could work, it'll be all right. When the wind starts blowing and the rain comes, that tent is not going to hold, right? So it's really about going, one, what kind of relationship do you have? What kind of relationship do you want? And are they is that the same thing? If they're not, then you got to pretty much do the work. It's really just about doing the work. make sure she feels, and as a man, like I would say, making sure my wife feels safe and protected does more for our relationship than anything. The more I reinforce and reassure her in my actions, in my being, in the consideration, the more I do that, man, the peace and happiness in my life is like leaps and bounds beyond what I even knew was possible. Like the kinds of things I didn't experience growing up type thing. So, but it took being honest, you know, and that wasn't hard. It's a hard step, I'll be honest. It's real.
I think it's a new version of masculinity where strength comes from vulnerability. That
Right.
actually, you open up and say how you feel, and you share that, and from that comes strength in a relationship, but also strength. I find I just don't have much to fear because I don't know, I feel content with it and with people, knowing those things. I wanted to get to this point you said it's really interesting. I've been struggling with as a man. So I like that feeling too. When my wife and my two babies, our babies feel, well, when I have a sense everybody's safe, protected, well nourished, sleeping well, like I do get a little feeling like I'm doing it right, like I'm doing the daddy husband thing the way I want to do it. And
Right.
at the same time, we're in this moment, this kind of evolution of masculinity and thinking about the role of men in society and the patriarchy, where us as protectors, I notice, I notice I'll open the door now that I'm out in public a little bit, like for women over, let's say 40, and they're very appreciative, and that signals to them I'm a good man. But
Right.
there's a way that actually I think with younger women that doesn't signal the same thing. There's
Oh,
not this sense that like my role is to protect you. My role is more to be an equal partner with you.
right.
And I've been trying to understand that and resolve that because whether it's just my old patriarchy bias or whether there's something in men as supporters and protectors that can hang out still in modern masculinity.
Mm. Man, that's a crazy. It's a trip that you're saying that because we talk about this. I think about it all the time. I was also raised to be very, um, like to be a gentleman. Um, though both of my parents stayed in my life, my mother was the kind of the primary caretaker, and she always made sure that we were opening doors and, and escort a woman. If she needs some help, if she drops something, pick that up for her. Those kinds of things. And yeah, I do feel a shift in sort of, in sort of what those things mean. But at the same time, and here's another thing I'll say that kind of goes with what I was saying before. So, my wife and I were raised the same. Her father was very traditional. He's Persian, and so I think the role of the man and the woman in Persian culture is very traditional in that way. Whereas now, I think the roles of what is expected from what is masculine or what is feminine, I think that the gestures don't necessarily translate or are uh, expected or celebrated in the same way. But what I will
And
say,
I think they're seen as just that, as gestures in a way.
right,
Like it doesn't
yeah,
matter if you open the door for me if I'm not getting equal pay, there's nothing safe and secure about this, right? If I'm gonna, be dealing with the amount of misogyny women in America deal with, like, yeah, it's a
that's fair.
gesture.
And that's fair, right? I mean, if you think about sort of the real issue there is like I think everyone is a little over the posturing and the formalities and really getting to like yeah like same thing with injustice in general. It's like don't prop things up as if you're really supporting a community and really talking that talk like you support them, but then on when the execution comes, you're not really showing up, right? So I guess in the same way, I understand how, the gesture of the role of a man is not as important as the real execution. And um, regardless of whether or not, a man is the caretaker or the provider or whatever, I think safety in a relationship is not necessarily a physical thing. Especially we live in a modern time, especially here in America. I mean, thankfully, it's a little less than, but it's in terms of partnership and relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship, like you want to feel like you could trust. you could trust. And I
Well,
think that,
maybe also I think maybe there's a saying, there is a role to make your partner feel safe and protected, but it's not necessarily a masculine role. But I would also say that my wife makes me feel very, very safe and very protected, and that's in all kinds of ways. And um, so maybe we want to, yeah, that's no
hmm
longer a masculine role. That's a role of every partner. And to not just have these things in our relationships be gestures, right? But to really be engaged in a real honest exploration. And I'd say evolution. I mean, since you all have known each other since you were 18, I saw somewhere you're in your 30s, right? So I'm a little older. My wife and I have been now married almost, like, it's only 20 years next month. And so
oh, it's beautiful.
and I think there's some, thank you, and it has been. I think the part that often gets missed, I see this clinically, where people are worried about like compatibility.
Right.
Like you guys are together because you have a similar background in some way, and sure, those things help.
hmm
But man, what really I think matters is this notion of feeling safe and protected with someone, and then evolving together.
mm
That you really feel, and that thing you said earlier, I really liked, which is you really have to bring all of yourself to a relationship and to be prepared for that. But also, I think be prepared for how the relationship changes you and confronts you, right, in a way that nothing else will.
Man, those adjustments that I mean, inevitably you learn and become a little bit of the people that you surround yourself with. And if this is your partner, you're going to be with them. So you're going to start to see things from different perspectives. And I think that naturally means that you're either going to adjust accordingly to sort of take them into consideration and make them feel considered so that they, better trust you and, you can move forward and build better together. But it really is, again, like to your point, you said it so beautifully, like it's not a masculine feminine role. It's really just about like the humanity of like, do I trust you in a relationship, right? So I think that's really what it is, man. And again, this is coming from, someone who had negative points, let's say it that way. I was coming from, -0 and really just was living not the kind of life that said I have a partner, And this is before I was married, but I'm just saying we were still together in these moments. Lots of things I wouldn't repeat. But I think as other guys, if there's any guys watching, like the new chapter began when it was like confronting the reality and really with time, like a reputation would be, you build your reputation over time, and it's the same way. But you have to, so you can't fix a broken bone with a band-aid. So a sorry and gestures and flowers or buying this thing and blah blah blah, that's never
It's
gonna
actions.
fix
I
a
mean,
thing.
I'm a therapist. I see a lot of women, and they're telling me what he said. I'm like, what did he do?
Right.
you know, it's just well,
Yeah.
Miguel, this has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you sharing so much about yourself and your relationship. And I wonder, before we end, though, if you can help us. There are a lot of people and a lot of your fans, a lot of people watching who are having a hard time as we're processing a lot of feelings in this. We're not out of a pandemic, but people are getting together. Some people are vaccinated, some people aren't. Some people
hmm
believe in that, some people don't. It's a complicated time.
hmm
And I was looking through your bio, I was seeing there was a moment in your life that looked a little complicated, where Mike, when you had some contractual issues early in your career, and I was thinking about you as a young man, having real talent and real hard work, it looked like.
hmm
And I was thinking that might be a time in your life when your mental health was a little more challenged than others. And I was wondering if there's something that you learned from that time, or another, if that time you were fine, that might help everybody as they're trying to process their mental health right now.
Ooh, yeah, 3 years of just waiting and being in limbo is a long, long time. But there's plenty of people who have succeeded and had to wait longer. I think one thing that always helps me is perspective and reminding myself of other people who did something great for themselves, uh, despite the adversities. And I look at this. So reading autobiographies, like if you read an autobiography of your favorite whoever, and everybody's got somebody that they love, some hero. And if you can pick up a book and like that helped a lot. And I actually, I've never said this before, but you know, reading through a Miles Davis autobiography, like that biography is crazy. His life was, you know, tumultuous in many ways, to fight through addiction and then to transcend sort of what's expected over time for a musician, you know, is to sort of disappear, but then reinvent oneself over time, over and over again. You just start to see what's really possible. And then when you look at other human beings who've done it in their own way, you start to see the perspective of, you know, right here in this moment, this is a blip. You got plenty of time. How do I better prepare myself? And then you can create actionable things in the moment that are less, that keep you less here questioning of if it can, and you're more in the when it will, you know. I think that completely changes the way you look at things.
And you give me a lot of optimism. I love the way that you speak about how we can grow creativity, that you don't see it as a gift you have, you see it as a muscle and a skill that you've honed and listened to. I appreciate all of what you shared about relationships and not making gestures, but showing up and your evolution. And what a wonderful tip, because I do think that when we can get outside of our own struggle and look to role models, look to people who have had, you know, some piece of the life that we're hoping for, there are so many lessons there, and it's such a great way to especially when I remember the few times in my life I was like, you know, I need a new mentor, right? Where someone to kind of guide me and inspire me. So thank you, and thank you for all of your music and wonderful voice. Everybody, you know, this is Miguel. I'm Drew Ramsey, MD. I'm a psychiatrist. This is Friday Sessions. I'm gonna make sure not mess up and record this special conversation on IGTV. So make sure and share it with anybody who's a fan of Miguel, who needs a little boost and help with their mental health, because we all know this year, and we can all use more awareness. And I think what we're talking about is more action on how to improve our mental health and mental fitness. Miguel, I hope this is the first of many conversations. I look forward to more of your music. It's going to be rocking our minivan in Indiana and Wyoming, just so you know. And thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. Take care of your mental health. Miguel, thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Dr. Drew, man. Have a great one. Big love to everyone. Thanks, guys.